Phew! Let's do it again. You guys rock. Great job so far. Thank you, choir and cantors. And yeah, you're going to see me up there on our home jumbotron here in just a few moments as we get ready for the celebration of baptism. We use the projector as a way of making things more easily visible for everyone. Before I begin my homily, I can't help but think back to my very first Easter Vigil as a priest in 1998 at St. Thomas in Ann Arbor. It was a very windy day, not unlike today. And at St. Thomas, there's a great plaza out in front of the church that we used at that time for the celebration of the Easter fire, just as we did right outside the doors of the church. And at the rehearsal on that morning of the Easter Vigil, we were all wondering about the wind and how it might affect the fire that evening. And the pastor, Father Roger Prokop, God rest his soul, wondered out loud, if one of us gets set on fire, what should we do? And without skipping a beat, I said, "Stop, drop, and roll." There's more to the story, but I won't share it. I still think very fondly of that. One of my best lines still, and it came so early in my priesthood. Well, here we are, on this third of the 3 days called the Triduum. We began this journey on Thursday evening, Holy Thursday, gathered in the quiet, still, beautiful, inviting light of the upper room, invited there a round table with the Lord to share in what we know as the Last Supper, when the Lord both taught and fed and encouraged us to follow his example and to feed others using his body and his blood, which he gives us, and allowing ourselves to be broken like his body is for us and poured out like his blood is for us. And in the background, in that upper room, in that soft, still, quiet, inviting light of dinner time, there was a kind of darkness growing. It would be personified in Judas, the betrayer. But that darkness also sometimes comes to rest in us, in those actions by which we betray the Lord's goodness, by those actions by which sometimes we betray the trust that the Lord places in us, by those actions which sometimes harm others profoundly, deeply, sometimes even nearly irreparably. We're fooling ourselves if we don't stop and think that that darkness still can be among us, even now. And that same darkness was the darkness that was experienced on Good Friday, as darkness fell over the earth in that moment, in that time while Christ was on the cross. And that darkness was there as they laid Jesus' body in the tomb. Quiet stillness, sadness, despair, confusion, hurt. You can imagine what Mary and the disciples and the others must have been thinking at the time. What happens now? What can change this seeming darkness? What can affect the goodness once again? What can make us return to that upper room? What can help us to serve and to live lives broken, poured out for one another? What can do that? This can. When we feel as though we may be overcome by the darkness, we need only look to the light. When we feel overcome internally, we look to the light that dwells within. When we have a sense of hopelessness or even despair, of confusion and hurt and sorrow, where should we look? Look to the light. Enough of darkness. Enough. Be gone. Look to the light. If there is one message that this world needs to hear today and now, look to the light. Not at the darkness, The light will heal. The light will transform. The light will call us back to who we were created to be, as individuals and as this entity that we know as a church. We look to the light. Tonight, as we gather to celebrate these holy mysteries, as we gather to celebrate baptism and profession of faith and confirmation and Eucharist, our catechumens and candidates look to the light. And they pray not only that the light here, the light of Christ, might not only be in them, but that light might be seen in all, everywhere, always, and forever. The ones who look to the light tonight, they're an interesting bunch, as I have gotten to know them. One is a poet, using words to bring light into the world. Another, an irrepressible, energetic person. I've not met someone quite like that one before. If there is such a thing as an immovable object, that person, I believe, is the irresistible force. There is the young mother who comes seeking the light, not only for herself, but with her husband, they seek that light for their daughters, wanting to hand that light on to them, so that that light in turn might be handed on to others. There is the nurse who cares tenderly for those who are sick and suffering, doing what she can to heal and to comfort. And into those situations, as she does in every other aspect of her life, she brings the light. Then there is the Father, the seeker, the searcher, the one who none of us realized wasn't Catholic. He's been taught well. He's been trained well, not only by his wife and his children, but by this family. And I have no doubt that he will carry that light out into the world. And I think also of two young people who come here tonight seeking confirmation. They weren't able to be confirmed when Bishop Boyer was here, and they sought on their own, to be confirmed tonight. Two high school age kids who probably had some other things that perhaps could have been done tonight, but no, they chose to be here with us tonight, to be here for confirmation. And I have no doubt whatsoever that when young people make choices like that, that through them the light is seen and shown and shared. These 3 days during which we have traveled together have been an interplay between light and darkness, and now light again. The ones who come seeking baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist, the ones who come to this community, whether they knew it or not, have already borne in them the light of Christ. Today, we officially recognize the fact that Christ is present in them. And what we recognize and celebrate in them, we pray is true for all of us, not just tonight, but each and every day as we go forward on into this year ahead. My friends, enough of darkness. Let us look instead to the light.